What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL Live. Joined as always by my co-host Jonathan Holder. Jonathan, what's going on, brother?
Man, I'm surprised I can see today with that ugly ass game I watched yesterday. Man, it almost burned the eyeballs out of my socket. Uh, but it was ugly from an offensive perspective. Defensively, it looked good.
Oh yeah,
Up until
yeah.
the last 3 minutes of the game. But other than that,
Yeah. I mean, you did what you had to do. As far as that went, like you were never in any real danger of losing the game yesterday. But yeah, it was rough, man. It was ugly. I mean, we got a win, and we much needed a win to try to stay in this, playoff race, whatever you think this might be. Um, but this is I hope that my supposed like negativity, as it has been pointed out from most of since about maybe the second Saints game, or maybe even the Dallas game, the cracks in the armor were starting to show even back then. And I had certain people be like, "Oh man, you're being, a little too negative or what have you." But I really hope that most of y'all see now that even if we do somehow end up making it into the playoffs, you're going to get bounced in the first round. So the question you have to ask yourself as a fan is, what is your mark of a successful season? I said way back in the off season, way back in the summer, that where I wanted to start at was, can we just get more than 7 wins? Now, you subverted expectation by doing what you did, is bringing in Kirk Cousins, paying him what you paid. You were sending a statement that you felt like, and when I say you, not you, Jonathan, but the front office. Well, I mean, it was all you, really. I mean, it's really get down to it. But no, but you were saying, clear message that, oh, we felt like we had a roster to make some noise. We were just a, quarterback play away. And I'm gonna go ahead and call it. For anybody who might come in the channel tonight, might come into the chat tonight and start trolling or running off at the mouth, y'all were awfully quiet during October when we were putting up points and rattling off wins,
Yeah, like late September and throughout October.
Right.
We didn't win every game, but the offense was looking good. Defense was, had its flashes. Like they were keeping people out of the end zone for the most part. That we weren't getting the sack. Now we're getting the sacks left and right.
Yeah, like we actually have the longest active streak of 4 sacks in a game, which is crazy. Yeah. Like knowing, and I didn't get a chance to actually read the article, but apparently over the bye week, Raheem has gotten more involved in the defense. Mm-hmm. Is what I meant to read that article, and now I can't find it, obviously. But that's what it was sound like it was alluding to. So be what you want it to be. I mean, they have in the defensive line department, they have really stepped it up since the bye week.
Yes.
Now box score, obviously the Minnesota game doesn't look that way, but that had some weird, like oddball kind of stuff.
Well, again, if you look at that game for 3.5 quarters, toe to toe,
right?
Like offensively, defensively, didn't matter. Like we went toe to toe with one of the best teams in the NFC and one of the better teams in the NFL, and like we were right there neck and neck with them, and then kind of things just fell apart at the end.
Right.
That's how you get to that box score. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, we're going to spend a good chunk of time talking about this particular situation. Fred with the $5, we appreciate you. He said glad we won, but Raheem wouldn't name a starter. Tells me it's Penix time. Obviously, that's going to dominate a good chunk of today's show. But before we necessarily get there, again, like I said, we're only talking about that because Kirk has had the stretch that he's had. Mm-hmm. Now, I was tweeting out at least the first half last night, um, talking about like has Father Time, hit Kirk with because he's not the first quarterback we've seen that happen to. It just it looks like he's lost something on the ball. Now Dan Orlovsky today on ESPN kind of pointed out it's because he's not sticking his foot in the ground and driving the ball. Um, so you're not getting a lot of zippy stuff,
Mhm.
and it's because it seems like he has, lost some of the confidence, which even Raheem admitted that today, in his Monday press conference, and so you have to ask yourself, like, why, like what has changed from throwing 500 yards against the Bucks to now?
Yeah.
That's the part I can't necessarily figure out.
So, like, the only thing I can think of is obviously me and you, and most of the people that are listening to us right now, and or will be listening to us in a bit. We are all fans.
Mhm.
Some have more knowledge than others, but we don't. We can say whatever we want about the coaches around the league, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. Even some of the worst coaches out there have more knowledge about the game than we do, than
Oh,
we
yeah.
ever will have. Right. So the only thing I can think of is something happened in late September. There was a change, or he was getting comfortable. The offense was running, it was clicking, everything was good. And then it took a while, about a month ish, for enough film to get out there, for enough teams to be able to look at that film and see, okay, here's what they're doing, and they either see like this is what they're doing specifically, and this is all they do, and they adjusted, have taken whatever it was away, and now we have not adjusted to that to give them a different wrinkle. Like that's because now it sounds like, because if you look at that game yesterday, uh, the the Raiders, they got a decent defense. It's not
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
It's not one of the better defenses in the league. They're not as good as the Vikings defense. They're not as good as the Chargers defense. But the offensive line held up way better against those two defensive lines, who, like, especially when it comes to like the Vikings and the Chargers, both, they have some really good defensive lines when it comes to pressuring the quarterback. But yet we were able to keep Kirk clean more often. Where here, especially anytime they did play action pass, uh, like there were breakdowns all over the field on that offensive line, and guys were just running free right at Kirk every single. It felt like every single time.
Right.
And so I don't know if that's a lack of preparation. I don't know if that's they just really changed things up for us specifically in that scenario. But I so desperately wanted to see like a third and long. They're going to send extra guys. They've done it the entire game, and I was waiting for, like, let's hit them with a screen pass, like a running back screen, and really like punish them for doing that. We didn't punish them for blitzing us the entire game, and so they just kept coming.
Yep. Yeah, no, for sure. It was that was aggravating. And plus if you were listening to the announcers or whatever, listening to the commentary, I believe it was Dan Orlovsky on the call. He made an interesting comment about, oh, why haven't they been doing like play action and all this other jazz, and the comment that apparently Zach Robinson said was they didn't feel like they could hold up. And so something about the line, even though, as you pointed out, they played well against, um, you know, um, the Chargers, and they played well against, the Vikings. The line itself did. There's something about the way our line is currently constructed that they don't feel like can hold up well. And there was a time last night where they did try to do a play action pass and got absolutely blasted.
Yep.
So there's something there about it's either the tight ends, the wide receivers. Like there's something about the other players that they're trying to construct a offensive scheme that fits everybody. And it was clicking in October. But as you said, now with that film out, it's no longer clicking. Teams have made the adjustments, and we're not able to make counter adjustments. Um, King says JR hit it on the head. Kirk has lost his confidence. You can see it. We are playing with fire because at that position, more than any, you have to have confidence or you're cooked. That's exactly it. Like at this junction, um, if like it's like you had a good analogy when we were texting back and forth before the show started. You likened it to a shooter who's in a slump. And last night was a perfect opportunity, especially as that game wore on and you saw that they couldn't do nothing on offense themselves.
Yeah, the Raiders.
The Raiders, Desmond Ridder was not having a revenge game, which, hey, I'm going to give the Falcons credit at least for that. In years past, a game like that, he'd have looked like Joe Montana. So he didn't, and that's great, right? Maybe that confirms that we shouldn't have kept him. But Ridder wasn't eating you alive. And so instead of playing it safe, which is what they did, they took basically they took the ball out of Kirk's hands, put it in the belly of Bijan and Algier and let them just run it out instead of giving it to Kirk in that situation and letting him shoot through it.
Yep.
And letting him try to build that confidence back. They didn't. And that tells me two things. Yes, Fred, I did see the report about players. I don't know how much I believe that particular report, but
yeah,
I saw it. But what I came out of that game with, my 30,000 foot view before we get into ballers and fallers, was what I came out of the game with is they right now don't have confidence in their quarterback and they don't have confidence in their kicker. I never in a million years have seen a team try to draw another team off sides on a field goal attempt with 20 plus seconds on the clock. You're just standing there with your thumb up your butt. Like ain't nobody.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest on that. Like when it was happening, I was like, I don't know about this. Like I it was weird. But I'll say this: I don't think I've ever seen it before, and so I can understand like the thought process of we're going to send out our kicking team and we're going to see if we can get him to jump. Because normally if you're going to pull that, you're going to send the offense back out, try to see if you can get them to hard count it, do all this other stuff.
Right.
You're going to try that. Doing the same thing, but with a different package out there. It's essentially I don't necessarily mind that. I think they could have timed it differently so that you weren't out there trying to do it with like 25 seconds left on the play clock.
Like that was just such a weird.
But I don't mind them trying that. I just think they need to work on the timing on that.
Don't get me wrong. I don't mind them trying it. It was just the optics of them, like Koo just standing back there, and it's like, what are we doing here? But like I said, again, that tells me earlier in the year they'd have let him kick that field goal. I mean, because it was a 54, 55?
56, I think.
56. Okay. Well, he hit one from 56 earlier in the year.
Yep.
And you're in a dome. So it's not like you're in some kind of crazy weather conditions.
Yep.
And so the fact that that was just, again, what I came out of that game thinking to myself is they don't trust their QB and they don't trust their kicker. And going down with now 3 games left, you're trying to hope, some magic happens as far as Tampa Bay is concerned, but
Mhm.
still hoping to grab the 7 seed, the second wild card spot, which I'm gonna go ahead and call it. I put out a tweet talking about basically if the Bucks screwed up or didn't screw up, there was no way we were gonna get in. I completely forgot about the second wild card. Like that didn't even, when I put that tweet out, that didn't even dawn in my mind
Yeah.
because I was looking at like there's no way we're gonna get the wild card.
Well, I figure there's both wild cards are probably going to come out of the North.
Probably. I mean, if you beat, because right now one wild card is Minnesota, the other wild card is the
Probably
Commanders.
Green. Wait, it's not Green Bay?
I'd have to look at it again. Well, I saw like one graphic or whatever. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But anyway, so if you were to beat the Commanders in a couple weeks, you'd have that tiebreaker or what have you. All right, let's get to Willie Doc and his ballers followers. We're gonna let him kick us off as we tend to do. Willie, we appreciate you greatly. And he says, pound for pound ATL. Oh, we're the ballers. Hey, sorry, I didn't read that. I thought he was just saying hello. No. So we are the ballers. And I appreciate that. I think this is the first time we've ever been the
Absolutely.
ballers.
Yeah.
Fallers, he has Cousins, which is
Yep.
understandable. Honorable mention, Hodge and special teams. Definitely, dude. Like, block 2 punts.
And I actually had a group chat with like my two brothers, my nephew, and my mom.
Right.
And like literally right before the first blocked or tipped punt, whatever you want to call it, I think it still goes down as a block.
I think it does.
Right before the first block punt, I literally was like trash talking the specialty because honestly, outside of like a couple of plays here and there, like the special teams had to me has been like I know we've had the bad offense the last 4 weeks, but up until this game, the special teams has been nothing special. Like
No,
it's
it's
cost us
been
some games quite a few times this year, and there has just been nothing special about our special teams at all. And then they come out this game and basically, 2 blocks on the punts. They block the extra point. They get the good
mhm.
return from Williams. Like it was just like they heard me talking shit about him, and then they're like, "Yeah,
All right, yeah, bet, motherfucker.
yeah."
But he says, side eye glance, Morris. I don't know if I want Kirk to finish the season or not. A win that feels like a loss. Exactly. There aren't too many times where I've felt dejected after a win, and this is definitely one of those times. All right, so let's get to the pound for pound. Oh, got to share the screen first, Jr.
I know.
And do I remember Chuck Knobloch? The name rings a
Yeah.
bell. What?
Oh, hold on.
Remind me.
Appreciate it, Keith.
Remind me who Chuck Knobloch is.
Chuck Knobloch was the second baseman for the Minnesota Twins back in the early to mid '90s.
Okay,
He was on the team that beat us for the World Series in '91.
that's why I remember.
Uh,
That's
yeah,
why I remember.
and he was really really good. He was a good hitter, good fielder. He was one of the best second basemen in all of baseball. And then literally just one it seemed like overnight he developed the yips and could not throw a baseball.
Right, as Keith
And
says, he couldn't throw to first.
yeah, he
Yeah.
would field it, throw it, and like throw it into the ground, throw it way over the guy's head, and this happened all the time. Like it
Mhm.
seemed like every single time he went to go throw the ball, it was an experience. It was not there was nothing
Okay.
easy or routine about it, and it happened, and that ended his career basically. He just couldn't
Right.
get on the field anymore.
Right. Yeah. And so he's saying Kirk is giving him those vibes. Okay. No, yeah, it's been weird. Like I'm not gonna lie. It's been really odd. Like we went from swag surfing Kirk O'Chains to like Grandpa Kirk overnight. It seemed like. All right. So Our baller dun, 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 is we're going for a twofer with Caden Ellis and Bijan Robinson. Buddy, if it wasn't for Bijan, um, like this team offensively would not be worth watching right now. Like
Yeah,
him and Tyler, but I hate it for Tyler in a sense because like he's a guy who needs to get lathered up as well, and by the third, fourth quarter, his punishing style is wearing defenses down. But Bijan's just too daggum talented to keep off the field, and
yeah,
he does an amazing job with his pickups. Um, and so they said it in the off season that they were basically going to give him as much as he could handle, and he's rewarding you with it. He
yeah,
crossed over 1,000 yards rushing last night. He's fifth in the league of rushing. Um, I mean, he didn't get into the end zone last night, but he's having a really, really good, not special, is not the right word, but he's cashing in on being drafted in the first round. Um,
yeah.
like he was. So
Well, I mean, how many times did we watch it last night where I honestly thought he was going, they handed it off to him. I thought he was going to go for maybe a yard or 2 yards, and then he like somehow comes out the other end getting at least five, 4 or 5,
yeah,
if not 6, 7, 8 yards out of a run. And I'm like, I don't even know how he did that. Like,
mhm.
just crazy.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's playing super well. And then Caden Ellis, I wanted to just because um earlier in the season he was one of my followers, so I wanted to give him his flowers, and I still will. But I was leaning towards D'Angelo Malone. That joker had 2 sacks last night.
yeah, I,
But
I,
Caden
I,
Ellis is
I
doing
put
a
that out
fair.
there. I put that out there in our group chat as well. I was like, oh, like well, on his first sack, I was like, oh, D'Angelo Malone sighting, and then he was in
Mhm.
back there again later on.
Right, and so but Caden Ellis, I think it was like I said, it was that article where it seemed like Raheem is, putting his hands more on the defense since the bye week, and I think a product of that is what they're doing with Caden Ellis. Um, I was concerned about that this week with Troy Anderson being put back on IR.
Was
Um,
he? Oh, he was actually put back on IR.
yes, he was put back on IR on Sunday, which really sucks for him. Like uber talented, but he's developing that injury prone moniker, which hopefully he can shake, but a lot of guys can't.
Yeah,
And as twitched up as an athlete as he is, um, sometimes those guys, it's just like it's almost like they have too much torque, you
yeah.
know, and their body just can't handle the torque. So we missed this one earlier, and I'm sorry, Kevin. I just saw this now. Um, Kevin ARP says, "Can we please bring in a competent kicker? We may have to visit that at the end of the season. I hate to say it. I
Yeah.
mean, Koo's been out of the league before because of you know going through bad stretches, but I don't know.
And
Uh,
look, and you and I don't know I haven't really paid attention to the press conferences, so I don't know if it was brought up or anything. I know that in the past he's been like, we have every confidence in Koo and whatever. But I mean, you couldn't come out and say. I mean, you could obviously, but everybody's going to look at you funny if you come out and say the same thing after you you had a 56-yard field goal attempt that earlier in the year you let him go for, and he's made them this year. He's missed them, but I mean, when you're past 50, it's kind of
it's
a
a
little
toss
bit
up
more of
anyway.
a
Yeah.
little bit more of a crapshoot, anyways. But you allow now. The only thing I can say in defense of that is, while it was still a little bit early, I think they had a pretty good idea that the defense was going to be it was going to be their day against the
Oh
Ravens
yeah.
offense.
Yeah. They
So
they
I don't
figured
I
that
don't.
out pretty
Well, I
quick.
mean, and we punted it, and I think from was that the possession where we got the safety?
I think it was.
So
I'd have to
it
go
ended
back
up
and look. You pinned them deep. You get a safety. Like I said, it became really apparent last night, like pretty quickly, that their offense wasn't going to be able to do nothing, and I think that influenced a lot of how that game unfolded. Obviously, would you have liked more touchdowns? Of course, you'd love to have
Mhm.
come out of that game putting all the narrative aside about Kirk Cousins. Didn't happen, but I think they saw pretty quickly that the Raiders weren't going to be able to do much, so they played it safe. And um, that is what it is. All right, so on to our faller, Z-Rob, old Zach Robinson, for all the things that we have talked about thus far with Kirk Cousins. You're supposed to be the next wonderkin. You're supposed to be the next whiz kid. You're the one that's being talked about as potential replacement at your alma mater at Oklahoma State because and I get it. And I've been saying it to everybody, and I'll even repeat it again now. This is his first official year as an OC at any level. So let's keep all that in mind. But part of the deal is that, you built this quarterback room of coaches and all this other stuff, and you're the head of that guy. You know what I'm saying? You're the head of that. You're supposed to be the one that's able to get Kirk back into rhythm. And your choice of getting Kirk back into rhythm was to take the ball out of his hand?
Yeah, that's the reason. That was the my reasoning for the OC being the follower this week, and that and this is coming off of a game last week where I felt like the game plan was good. Like the game plan was good. We just had Cousins throwing picks all over the place, but the actual game plan and how it was executed for the most part was really good. Like there was a lot of variety that you were kind of keeping the other team on their heels a little bit. So I like the game plan last week. Now I don't know if it was a mandate from Raheem that's basically like, hey, we just need to make sure we're taking care of the ball. Um, and maybe he kind of wanted that more conservative play calling. But like I said, and we talked about it earlier, like I said, if I especially this game, and I totally agree with you when you said this earlier, this game needed to be the game where you let Kirk shoot his way out of his slump.
This should have been a get right game.
Yes.
And Millie Mills points out, goes, JR, I think Z-Rob tried to do that a game or two ago. Kirk just ain't got it no more, bro. It is what it is. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe, like, we're not in that building. It's hard for me to really say that. But there's some evidence to back up that claim as far as some of the things that we saw last night. Again, I'll state it as I've always tried to call it like I see it. Opinions are, opinions may vary and are subject to change, right?
Yeah.
Disclaimer out of the way. But uh this is the point I was trying to crap, I lost my train of thought. Trying to be all funny with the whole my opinions, they change as they go, but I've always tried to like call it as I see it,
Yes.
right? And call it as the reality that I see. My opinion, however you want to frame that. But early on, Kirk was gripping it and ripping it.
Yep.
He's not doing that anymore. It does not look. I don't know if his arm's dead. At this point, to save face, I almost would be wondering if I saw somebody else put it out there, but I was thinking it before, and I just didn't put it out there because I haven't been as active on Twitter lately. But it would not surprise me one bit if after tomorrow's practice or whatever, if Kirk is banged up and misses a game. You see what I'm saying? Like to try to save face. I hope that's not the route. And the reason why I say that is because, look, we're all grown men. This is a business. Whether he plays another snap or not, he's getting 90-something million guaranteed.
I get that, and I've been on that side of I've said exactly the same thing you said before, and I agree in in a vast majority of situations, but I don't. If you decide to go that route, I don't necessarily think that's as long as you do it with you've sat down and talked to the
Like
quarterbacks.
you handle it
You let them know
professionally.
like, hey,
Right.
maybe just like we've seen with other quarterbacks, or even outside of football. You look at baseball, you look at other sports where like maybe a guy who's been struggling, it's like take a game off, take a day off. Just let somebody else step in. Maybe you see it from a different perspective, whatever. Maybe you do that. And if you're going to go that route, then yeah, you don't want to just be like, no, he's healthy. We're just going to go with Penix this time, because then that narrative starts up.
No, like
Right?
yeah, like there. I would much rather, honestly, I'd much rather be like, no, this is performance based, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
And just do it because like there's other instances. Um, Marlon says, "Jr. I didn't know you were tatted up." Heck yeah, man! Come on, no, what's up? Anyway, I just don't always do the sleeveless. Felt like it today. Anyway, um, but I think back to the Seahawks and Russell Wilson.
Uh-huh.
They signed Matt Flynn, to a pretty big deal. Now granted they did it in camp, and they started Russell Wilson after drafting him.
Yeah.
There was other I had another example in my mind besides well, I mean, you got Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. They
Yeah.
traded up, gave up draft capital, moved up to get Trey Lance, and then end up going with Brock Purdy. So you have to be man enough, professional enough, ball. I don't know, however you want to frame it. You have to be professional enough to go in. All right, this didn't work the way we thought it was going to.
Mm-hmm.
So we've ridden it as long as we can ride it. It's not getting any better. Now it's time, like we have to. Before you start, you can't in this business, in this game, it's a game, it's a team sport where regardless of the money, the only thing anybody gives a crap about is winning. And that's how you start losing the locker room. If everybody's watching Penix practice, as the reports supposedly said, and we don't know that. That's why I don't put much, credit to that, because, and the reason why I say that, you have that guy talking about an anonymous whatever, when we have people we talk to on a regular basis that are there at the facility. Our good buddy, Joe Patrick. You think Joe Patrick would not say something?
Yeah.
Like, and he sees it with his own eyes every week. So, with that being said, not that I'm saying that the guy's wrong. I just don't put a lot of stock behind that report per se. But at a certain point, this coaching staff owes it to the rest of the players, the rest of the team, and the fan base to go, okay, we got to do something different. We got to try something different. We wanted to talk about winning and all this other jazz. Outrun the South, all this other jazz. Well, you ran out of air, so you're no longer going to outrun the South. But can you at least try to salvage getting that that 7 seed? You got a very important stretch coming up. They just flexed your Washington game to another Sunday night game.
Yep.
And depending on how that goes out, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if they flex the Panthers game to a prime time slot. That's the reason why they hold those at the end of the season.
Yep.
So Millie says Kirk got space jammed when he went down to New Orleans. Yeah, because up until that point, he was playing okay.
Yeah.
Like at least it was looking good.
Yeah.
He
Look
said,
at the. No, go ahead. Put
I
that
was
up
going to say, Fred Butt says Arthur Smith did the same thing to Ritter before mentioning him, talking about he dinged up or whatever.
Like at the end of the day, no matter what decision is made, if it works out, we're all going to think it's a genius move. If it doesn't work out, then it's a bonehead move. But like, look, if Kirk, you named him your starting quarterback. If Kirk is healthy, okay, um, it's one thing if he was a just I don't know a journeyman quarterback that had kind of moved around the league. If he was Fitzpatrick, right, where his kind of his mo was,
yeah, right.
I'm gonna go to a new team. Uh, you know, I'll come in either as the starter for the week or I'll come in as a backup, light it up for 5 or 6 weeks, and then I'm going to fall off a cliff because maybe the same thing happens there that happens with that's happening now with us, which is he comes in, throws the other teams like a curveball that they don't see coming. He gets a month and a half of success out of it until everybody realizes what's going on, makes the adjustment, then he kind of turns back into a pumpkin. And maybe that's what's happened here, maybe not. We don't know for sure.
Well,
But
yeah,
but at the end of the day, if it was somebody, if we had like Fitzpatrick or even Brissett, like let's say if we'd gotten Brissett in the offseason instead of Kirk Cousins.
see, that's
Okay. Now, if that was the case and he was having the kind of games that he was having, there'd be no question. I'd be like, let's make the move, Penix. But Kirk Cousins is a highly successful throughout almost his entire career. Starting quarterback. He's a very successful veteran quarterback, and he's a guy that you pay. The money is going to be a factor in it. You don't want it to be the factor, right? But it is going to be a factor, right? You don't want to spend all this money on something that you're not going to use.
Oh, of course.
And so I think if he is healthy, he's probably going to be your starting quarterback.
Oh yeah.
And I think the calls for Penix are just they're until Cousins, because we were hearing that stuff at the very beginning of the season, like Steelers game, like first couple of games until we got to that Bucks game and he lit it up.
Right.
Once that happened, and then the next whole month that happened after that, it was real quiet then.
And that's the thing. It's like I'll say this, like the Falcons brass, Terry Fontenot and all them, they deserve just as much, criticism as anybody else at this junction because they have done this to themselves. And what I mean by that is if you had any notion whatsoever that you were going to draft a QB, you don't sign a Kirk Cousins. Like
I don't necessarily think that's.
I mean, that's fine.
At least based on what they've said after the fact.
I get that. Okay, that's based on okay, fine. I can polish a turd. I can spin a story however I want to, right? But it's granted it is painted the MO of Terry Fontenot. Like he's trying to build for now and for later. And he's doing it in a way that no other GM has tried to do. Now, we'll see if it'll work as we get into the Penix thing, if it's a few years from now or whatever. The rest of the season, none of that matters. If Penix hits, then he looks great. If he doesn't, he looks stupid. Okay, and that's just how that's going to play out. Well, but yeah. if you had to me, the guy sitting in a home office who drives a truck for a living, Let's just go ahead and point that out there, right? Who drives a truck for a living, doesn't have to make $1,000,000 decisions. If you have any notion that you're going to draft a quarterback, if you're looking at it going, man, next year, and I'm talking like this coming draft looks as bad, if not worse, than 2022's quarterback draft. We need to take a quarterback this year. Then, if you want to do the KC model and have your guy sit, then you sign a guy like a Jacoby Brissett. You sign a Gardner Minshew. You keep Tyler Heineke and Desmond Ritter and let them two fight it out while your guy's sitting on the bench. You bring in a Russell Wilson and let him revamp his career, or a Justin Fields, as King is pointing out here. And then you take that 180 million. He's bringing up the point. That's where I was driving at, and King's bringing it up. You take that 180 million. You take that 40 something million dollars fully guaranteed this year, and you go get a Jonathan Grenard. You don't think Grenard would have wanted to come home? Like, he played high school in ball in Hiram. I've stood on the field where they have his number retired. You don't think he wouldn't want to come home and play for the Falcons? But you didn't have that money because you went after Kirk, right? This, whether you like it or not, whether because of the past 4 or 5 games, because you pissed away a 6-3 2-game lead in the NFC South, you now have to answer these questions.
Well, yeah, of course.
And that sucks for them. This is the nature of the beast, right?
Yeah.
Again, like you pointed out, like I pointed out, wasn't nobody talking about this when we were swag surfing. Wasn't nobody talking about this when Kirk was throwing for 509 yards, breaking the franchise single game passing record. Wasn't nobody talking about this when we're going down the field and scoring a touchdown and beating Philly in Philly.
Yep.
But unfortunately for the team, for the front office, for Terry Fontenot, for Raheem Morris, for everybody involved, we're sitting here with 3 games left in the season, and this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about a dominant win.
Yeah.
And that's the nature of it. And that's the part that sucks. That's the part that has me on, Monday night, Tuesday morning going, and we got to do this again.
Yeah. But like, look, at the end of the day, we're in contention. We've now got as many wins as we did the last 3 years.
Oh, look, at this point, I need one more win.
Yeah.
1-2 more wins. At least let me come out of this with a winning season. We ain't had a winning record in what? 4 years, 5 years?
Yeah. So let's say I honestly think we can win I think we can win all 3 games. Okay, I think we can, like Washington. If we had to play Washington earlier in the season, I think we'd have been in trouble. This late in the season, even with the offense playing the way it is, like they've kind of, like them and Jaden Daniels have kind of come back down to earth on the offensive side.
Yeah.
The defensive side has been pretty good for the most part of the year, but the offense has kind of come back down to earth a little bit.
Yep.
Like you talk about the first half of the season, they looked like they were going to steamroll a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
and they've kind of fallen back a little bit.
They did the typical Dan Quinn Kingsbury thing, rush out and then kind of like falter towards the end. Yes, Fred, we know that you have been saying every week that you don't trust Kirk. Yes,
yeah,
I get it. We all know that.
And I saw somebody say something about he stole money and only got 1 playoff win. I mean, like if we look at his overall statistics, especially his years in Minnesota, if we go off of that, his years in Minnesota in 2019 when they made the playoffs, he was he played in 2 games. He was 40 of 60 for a 66.7 completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. One game in 2022, 31 of 39 for like an almost 80% completion percentage, 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So like
Look, if you
in those games, like that was not Fred said it, like he was not the issue.
I'll put it to you like this, man. What everybody was saying the same crap about Stafford until
Yep.
Stafford went to LA with a really good team and won the Super Bowl. They were
Yep.
saying Stafford couldn't get it done, yada yada yada. This ain't. Yes, right now we're focusing on Kirk because he's the ire of everyone because he hasn't been playing well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a team sport. We say it all the time. We'll continue to say it.
Yeah. It's just, did you freeze? Did I freeze? Somebody froze. Can you guys still hear me? Um, yeah, exactly like you said. He, um, hold on 1 second, guys. Yeah, I think JR froze. Oh man, he just straight up. All right. Yeah, it's it's frustrating to to be here where we're at in this season. We should have uh, you know, we should have won a couple of the games that we lost in this recent stretch. We should have blown these guys out, but it is what it is, and I want to see progress through the end of the year. That's what I want to see. I want to see. Um, let's. Uh, JR said he'd be back in a minute. I think he might be resetting his router or something. But yeah, I want to see progress. And that's what really my goal for this year. Yes, I would like to win the division. Yes, I would like to host a playoff game, maybe win a playoff game. I would love those things. What I wanted to see was progress. Now, I will say that I have seen progress on the defensive side. And if that's because Raheem has taken more of a hand on the defensive side, then hey, maybe he just becomes the defensive coordinator, and hands it off more to Zach Robinson on the offense, just lets him run his ship. Who knows? Maybe that's more of a year two thing, but you just never know. Is 100 so? Kings here is 180 million worth maybe 2 wins more than last year and no playoffs. I mean, uh, you know, I will say that it isn't necessarily like some of the early games of the year. If we if the defense had been playing like it is now, then we're probably 7-1,
And he's back.
or 8-1 instead of 9-3 or 6-3. Maybe we're in a better position as it stands right now. Welcome back, sir.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like I looked down, everything started spinning. I said, "Oh crap! Don't tell me, don't tell." And I look down and I see like everything's off. I was like, "Man, come on!" I got to get a hold of AT&T. I don't know if it's my modem that is because I got AT&T fiber, which you
Yeah,
have as well,
yeah,
and it's just randomly it'll just like blip or it'll crash for about 2-3 minutes, and
yeah.
then it comes back, and I'm like
I actually had no issues with it for quite a while until recently. Uh, for some reason, and we had the fiber, the gig
Yeah,
fiber,
yeah, gig
and
speed or whatever the heck they want to call it. Yeah.
and everything. But like for like a few shows prior to our little hiatus that we went on, and even I think in the last show, I was getting some weird like it would start to freeze and everything would kind of go crazy for a second, then it would come back. Uh,
Mhm.
but it turns out that the because we have the AT&T router right here, and that actually runs through uh, my brother-in-law's router that runs into another switch, and then it goes into like a mesh network and all this other stuff. Well, it
Right.
turns out uh, like I would run like speed tests, and the speed test instead of showing like 1 gig of speed and all this other stuff or close to it, it was showing like 120 meg down and 120 up, and that was like maxed.
Mm.
And it turns out, and I called AT&T. They were checking things like we were doing. Me and him were like troubleshooting this thing like crazy. Couldn't figure it out. Turns out that there was like a firmware update to his switch that he was just like, yeah, sure, and it had like a security thing on it. He was like, oh, that sounds good. It just enabled it, which it basically throttled our speed at like 10%
Oh,
of what we should be getting.
I'll
So
say this,
once he turned that off, everything was like,
like I'm hardwired. Like when we do the show, because I don't want any issues,
yeah.
I'm hardwired from the AT&T router
Mm-hmm.
directly to my laptop. And even with it being hardwired, it's like it's the AT&T router that loses its
Yeah.
crap. All right,
Yep.
King was asking a question. He says, "What was our record at this time last year? With the last 3 years, what was our record right now? Anyone? Okay, so with 3 games left last year, uh, we were 6-8.
Yeah.
Going into the last 3 games, we beat Indianapolis, and then we lost to Chicago and lost to New Orleans. So that was last year. Um, let's see if I can find 2022 going into the last 3 games. With 3 games left, we were 5-9. Because remember that's when we switched to Ritter.
Yeah.
We lost to New Orleans, lost to Baltimore, and then won against Arizona, won against Tampa Bay to get to um, 7-10.
Yep.
Now, so 21, which was Arthur Smith's first year, Matt Ryan, we were with 3 games left, we were at 6-8. So technically speaking, we're at a better position, 7-7, with 3 games left.
Progress, man. Baby steps.
There's part of me that would make this so much easier to stomach had we not signed Kirk. If we were right here where we are, and we had went through most of the season with a journeyman QB, and now we're moving on, talking about go ahead, start the kid. You know what I'm saying? And we were sitting at 7-7. I would be on this show telling y'all, hey man, remember, this is, Raheem's first year and Jimmy Lake's first year and Zach Rob's first. And there's part of my mind that is still telling me that is still telling me, hey, Detroit, when Dan Campbell first got there, wasn't the same Detroit that they are now.
Yep.
And then there's other ones that, um, yeah, Falcon Vic says, number seed 7 card still open, but I'd rather have the division. I'd
Appreciate
rather
it,
have the
man.
division, but now you're going to need a lot of help. But the
Yeah.
problem is,
Well, we just need what we need is for the Buccaneers to have. We need to win the remaining 3 games. Just take care of our business
right?
and have the Buccaneers slip up once. Well, that's
Yeah.
all we need.
And
We
we
just
end
need
up
it
with
to
the
slip
same
up
record.
once.
But as I pointed out, which that tweet that I was talking about, their last schedule is, Saints, Panthers, and Cowboys.
I think your best bet is probably the Saints, just because it's
Well, the Saints
a
or the Panthers. The Panthers have been, the last few games have been
little more
better,
feisty.
and which is hilarious because they were, for the first time in 34 weeks or 34 games or some nonsense like that, they were actually favored to beat
Yeah.
the Cowboys, and then they lost. So I mean,
But I do think that like the Saints have a weird knack for just like being a fly in the ointment at
oh
the
yeah,
worst possible time. And I'm hoping maybe like they can figure out some way to I don't know, knock Mike Evans out of the game or something.
I don't know. We have to go back to 2017. 2017 was the last time we had a winning season. Almost the entirety of this show. Do you understand why now I'm tired?
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost the entirety of this show, we have been talking about a mediocre to bad team.
Yeah.
As
But now I
uh,
will I will say this. I will say this. Uh this year, um I don't think I think we are better than a mediocre team. Okay, I know the record says 7-7. I know this. You are what your record says you are. All this other stuff, but I see us when we play against teams like Kansas City, when we play against teams like Philadelphia, when we play against teams like for 3.5 quarters of the Vikings, when we play against playoff caliber teams, if we were a mediocre team, then we would, we would look more like, our game would have looked more like the Kansas City Chiefs game from Sunday. They would have beat us by 2 scores, this and that, and the other. There's all kinds of like we have played a lot of teams really tough and have just come out on the wrong end a couple more times than I thought than we probably should have. And I honestly think that we are a better team than our record shows. And we need to, if we can get the ship righted on offense, and it seems like maybe we've gotten the ship at least somewhat righted on defense for the most part, at least from a defensive line perspective. I think that we're a better team than what people think we are.
and well, and look,
Whether or not that all that happens, whether or not the offense turns it around or not, who knows?
and we'll
If we can get to some kind of semblance, it doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't have to be like the exact one we had back in October, but if we can get close to that, I think we're in a much better spot.
yeah. I mean, yeah, and we just have to hope that the coaching staff makes the correct decisions, whether that's to stick with Kirk or move to Michael Penix. At
Yeah,
this point, as a fan, I don't care. Like I hate to say it like this, as I just pointed out, we haven't had a winning season uh since 2017. At this point in time, I don't care if it's a janitor back there throwing the ball.
yeah,
I want to recapture that feeling that we had in October to
yeah.
where I was willing and proud, even more so, to wear my Falcons hats every day to work. And not that I say I ain't now, but it's like it's not been as eager to grab a Falcons hat.
I think my biggest problem is since the weather turned. I think the Falcons' biggest problem since the weather turned cold. I have not been wearing my Falcons hat as much. I've been wearing a beanie
Well,
to keep
then
my head warm.
put your hat back on.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to wear my.
But
I'm
you see what
not,
I'm saying? It's like I am
nothing but the Falcons hat all week
right.
long.
It's like I'm more willing to wear that Falcons hat.
Yeah.
Now I got plenty of them to choose from, and I'm more willing to grab one of those versus grabbing, maybe my company hat or a vendor hat. So that's what I want. Like I said, I don't care. At this point, I don't care if it's Kirk. I don't care if it's Penix. I don't care if they re-sign Tyler Heineke and it's him. I don't care. I don't care anymore. What I want is my team to get back to winning. There's something I said to you years and years and years ago. All I really want, and I think most fans have any right to really expect out of a team, is I want them to be in contention.
Yeah.
And I want them to be a competent team.
Yeah.
And
That's why 2 years ago we came out with the same record. It was 7-10. The same record Arthur Smith had his whole tenure here.
Oh.
But the 2022 Falcons, I really enjoyed watching that team win or lose almost the entire year.
right, because they felt like they were in it. They felt like they were, and we'll get he reminded me, so I didn't want to forget. Oh, good Lord, I didn't want it to go away. But so Willie Doc asked, this would be a great way to start winding this down. Buy or sell right now, as we sit here a day after a win, which is, again, like the title, Falcons win, but don't inspire any kind of confidence. Jonathan, where are you at? Are you buying or selling? Penix starts against Washington. That's not next week. Next week is the Giants. So buy the Washington game. Buy what has now been flexed to Sunday Night Football. Do we get rookie versus rookie, the number 2 overall pick versus the number 8 overall pick? Buying or selling? Where are you at?
Oh, the fact that this is a hard decision is kind of is making me sad. Screw it. I'll buy.
So you think
I'll buy it.
Sunday Night Football, we're watching Michael Penix?
If Kirk Cousins comes out and the man just needs to trust his gut, because it looks like he sees something, but then he overthinks it. Right? If he can get past that and give a good performance, then obviously he's going to start against Washington. However, if he goes out there and even in a win against the Giants, if there's another offensive performance like that, then where you look like you're not seeing the field right. You are second guessing every throw you make. It seems like either you're not getting the protection moved over properly, or you're not recognizing what the defense is doing to you. If that kind of stuff continues to happen through the Giants game, I could see his first start being Penix's first start being against Washington.
All right, so same question to me. Obviously, buy or sell. I think I'm going to buy as well. Honestly, I could be wrong, but being as non-committal as Raheem was today, making the statement that we have to have better QB play, at least being transparent in that aspect.
Yeah.
I think opens the door big time.
I think I think there's a better than zero chance.
Right. Yep. And as Falcons Vic puts up there, Kirk doesn't have the zip. That's why he hesitates.
And so here's the thing, I do agree. Like, it doesn't seem, but the problem was, like, earlier in the season we saw plenty of zip on his balls.
Right. There's something has happened. Something has changed.
I don't know if he's tweaked his Achilles. I don't know what.
I don't know. Maybe he's maybe somebody was alluding to earlier. I think it was Fred talking about it being like a career killer. I don't necessarily agree there, but he could be out of gas. You got to remember, he sat out a good chunk of the season, was held out of a lot of training camp, preseason. He may just be flat out of gas. So we'll see. As far as that goes. For those wondering, let's see. Nope. This is the one I want. Yep. Nope. That's the one I want. Okay. So this is what it looks like right now. You have far as we're concerned, this is the hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the hunt for this spot right here. Because you're not catching Philly at 12-2. So if somehow they win their division, that means Detroit goes there. Right? Am I right about there? That no, not Detroit.
Washington.
Washington. Yeah.
Wait,
Who's
wait,
their
wait,
division?
wait,
Hold on.
wait. Washington and Philadelphia are in the same division.
They're in the division with the Giants and they're not doing this by
Cowboys.
division. So they're a division winner. Their division winner.
Yes, top 4 would be division winners.
Okay, so they're a division winner and their division winner. So they're saying that's the way they have this bracketed is weird. So they're saying that's you're not catching Green Bay at 10-4. So that's your first wild card. So your other wild card is Washington. That's why the Washington game is super important.
Yeah.
You
now Washington, like, what is Washington's remaining schedule?
I haven't seen what Washington's remaining schedule.
Give me a second. I'll find it real quick.
Okay. But so Washington is who you're trying to track down. Because you're not going to track down Green Bay. You can't get 10 wins. Can you? Yes. If you win out, you get 10 wins. So you have to either hope Green Bay loses or Washington loses. So what's their...
All right. So so they have to face the Eagles this coming weekend.
Okay.
So that could be a loss.
All right, we'll say that's a loss.
Okay. Then they get us at their place. So we have to go to Washington. That's the Sunday night game. If we win that game, and we win against the Giants, obviously. If we win that game against the Giants and the Washington game, then we have the same record. We're both going to be at 9-7.
Right, and then we would have the tiebreaker.
Then we would have the head-to-head tiebreaker, and then that just means we got to beat the Panthers to make sure, because the Commanders then have the Cowboys, and I'm pretty sure the Commanders can beat the Cowboys. But again, division game, you never know. Right. But if we win if we win the next 2 games, going into the Panthers game, we win, we're in.
Right. So
we'd be in at 10-7.
I mean, we pretty much. And what's Green Bay's? What's the rest of their schedule look like? Just out of curiosity.
Give me 1 second.
Falcon Vic's not wrong. It says we still need the Seahawks to lose because they have. Yeah, we need a lot of help. We need the Seahawks to lose. We need Washington to lose. We need Green Bay to lose. Nick's like, we never beat Washington. I know, right? It feels that way, don't it? Even when they're bad.
It's like, all right, so the Packers they're back home this coming weekend against the Saints.
Should win that game.
Yeah, they should win that game. Then they go on the road to Minnesota to face the Vikings.
Okay.
And then they go back home to face the Bears.
Oh yeah. Okay, so they may have one more loss, and you're looking at 12-5. You're probably not going to catch the Green Bay Packers. What about the Seahawks? Dre Murphy says, Jonathan, yes, sir. We're freaking beating the G-Men on Sunday. Fun day, aka my freaking birthday. No, well, good. Happy birthday.
All right.
Happy early birthday. What are the Seahawks?
So the Seahawks are at home this weekend against the Vikings.
Should be technically a loss.
Should be a loss.
Okay.
Then they go on the road in December against the Bears.
That's probably going to be a win.
Bears defense is pretty good, so, and it's going to be likely going to be in. There's a good chance it'll be in the elements.
So we'll say that's a toss-up. What's their last game?
Last game is in LA versus the Rams.
Now that could be that could also be for the division there. So, I could see them ended up 8-7 this weekend. Say they beat the Bears, that's 8-8 going into the last game, and they could be 8-9. So we have to be with 3 games left. We have to be 9-8 at minimum to leapfrog the Seahawks in that aspect. And that's saying that the Cardinals don't go on a run and the 49ers don't go on a run. Because the 49ers could still end up 9-8, which could potentially be our record if we don't beat. I mean, if we don't beat Washington, it don't really matter, I don't think.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we're like we got to get through the G-men.
yeah, we got to get through the G-men.
Don't care if it's ugly or not.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I don't care.
We have got to come out of this weekend with a win against the Giants. We have to, because that's the kind of game that you cannot lose and then be like, well, we dug ourselves. No, you lose to the Giants this weekend.
Yeah, if we lose to the Giants, I'm going to call it we're done.
Now I'll say this: you lose to the Giants, I think that's also a potential scenario where now again, if we lose to the Giants with Kirk Cousins throwing for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and the defense just plays like ass, then I think Kirk Cousins still starts. But I don't think Kirk Cousins could throw 3 touchdowns and have us somehow still lose to the Giants. I just don't see it.
No.
So if we lose to the Giants, likelihood means that Kirk Cousins played like ass, and in that scenario, that's where I could absolutely see it coming to fruition. That then now we're so behind the 8 ball. It's like we're going to see what we got in the rookie for the last couple of weeks.
Yep. Millie says, "I'm gonna be honest. I need Mike Evans to have another big game these next 2 weeks. My fantasy playoffs are more important than us."
Millie, your fandom has been revoked. You cannot. Nope.
Look, he can still have a good game and the Bucks lose.
Nope.
Like that's fine. I don't care.
Mike Evans needs to have the worst 3-game stretch of his entire career. Have 7 fumbles, like minus 10 catches somehow. I don't know if you can even do that, but I don't think figure out some way to do it.
Yeah, I don't think you can go that route.
I think the starting quarterback. Well, I would have said DeVito, but I think he went out with a concussion, and so I don't know if he'll be back this coming week. And I can't remember who it was that came in his place.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think that's going to do it for us. Hopefully, we're talking about a win. Oh, housekeeping in this aspect. Next Tuesday is Christmas Eve. I'm pretty sure, like, my wife's already kind of told me that she doesn't want me doing a show. Like, Christmas Eve is family time. So, I won't be here next Tuesday. We'll figure out if there's going to be a show. Maybe it's Thursday or something like that next week. We'll see how that goes. But we're also going to be coming in from out of town. Like we're going to be gone all weekend for the holidays. And I'm going to be driving back in 4 or 5 hours, kind of deal. So I'm not exactly sure when I'm even going to be back on Tuesday because that's the day we're coming back in. So probably not a show unless Jonathan gets a wild hair up his butt, which may happen. Who knows?
Who knows? I would not expect it, but again, if it happens, it happens. But I seriously doubt it.
Hey, look, Dre, you don't stay married for 15 years by like abjectly going against what I'm not a whole like just give in to whatever my wife wants, but you pick your battles, right? And when you're not told, when it's expressed to you that it's Christmas Eve and you get a look like you know what that look means.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like every married man knows what that look means. And There are plenty of times,
What
and
when you get that look, whatever plans were going on up here, those will
right, and so there are plenty of times that my wife will like she's my biggest supporter, flat out. And if I tell her, "Hey, babe, I don't want to do this," or what have you, if it's a family function or something like that, 9 times out of 10, she's, "Hey, you're fine. You do what you do." So then when you do get that look, right?
yep.
That's when it's like, "Yes, ma'am."
Yeah.
Like,
Well, so maybe we again, this is all speculative, and me and Jay will talk about it some.
yeah,
Maybe we do something Sunday night, Monday night,
I will be
maybe.
flat out of town. Like, I will be in a hotel up in Pigeon Forge with with 5 million of my closest friends in a tourist trap, heck hole. Um,
Do it from your phone, sir.
yeah, from my phone in a hotel room with 2 children and
Yeah,
yeah, no, sir.
yeah. No, no. What you do is you then go and sit in the bathtub
Oh,
and
yeah, right,
lock
right.
the door
I'm
for
gonna
an
go sit
hour.
out on the balcony. Um, but no, we'll figure something out, especially if they win. If they lose and it looks horrible, you probably won't hear from me.
Yeah.
But if they win, well, even if they don't, we'll try to figure something out. It may, like I said, it may be a Thursday after Christmas, um,
Thursday, Friday, something like that.
something of that nature. And if we don't, if things change, I do want to wish everyone of y'all a very Merry Christmas. I
Absolutely.
do hope and pray that all of you are happy, healthy, and safe this holiday season. Um, I know sometimes the holidays can be real rough for some folks. Um, don't go to that dark place. It's no fun there.
Nope.
It's lonely and dark. Don't do it. I want you to count your blessings. There you go. Um, and realize that every day that you get to open your eyes is a gift. And I would implore you to treat it as such. So,
Yep.
just in case, Merry Christmas to all of you.
Yep.
And
Merry Christmas.
we appreciate y'all. Your continued support, your continued engagement has been awesome. And we'll see y'all sometime next week. And as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Rise up.